My name is Casey, and everything I ever worked for started in a one-bedroom apartment with a broken stove, a leaky faucet, and textbooks stacked higher than furniture. I was a first-generation college student, drowning in student loans, juggling shifts at a coffee shop, tutoring rich kids who had a chauffeur, and spending every other breath begging my body not to give up. But I held on because my final thesis was due in 3 days, because it was my ticket out, and because I was never supposed to have a future. I lived with my parents because I couldn't afford rent on my own. They made sure I never forgot that every single day. You're 24, still here, still sponging off us like a damn parasite. My dad would grumble shirtless in the living room, tossing an empty beer can at the wall behind me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching this video. Don't worry, Daddy, my sister Savannah would say with her fake baby voice. Once Casey fails that little essay of hers, maybe she'll finally learn to clean floors like the rest of us. Savannah had dropped out of high school twice, gotten pregnant at 17, and every time she hit rock bottom, my parents rolled out the red carpet and called it a blessing. She got a car, I got a bus pass, she got a baby shower. I got told I was too selfish even to give them grandkids. And now, when I was this close to graduating top of my class in biomedical engineering, the hatred in the house had thickened like smoke. It clung to my skin. They didn't want me to finish. I knew it. I'd been guarding my laptop like it was a newborn. It had 5 years of notes, diagrams, 3D renderings, late-night brainstorms, and my final thesis. The project was about prosthetic spinal columns designed for rural communities with no surgical access. It was brilliant. My advisor said it could change lives. But none of that mattered in our kitchen. "You think you're better than us, huh?" Dad said one night, leaning against the counter, shirt stained with grease, walking around with your fancy words and typing like you're about to invent the cure to broke. He reached for my laptop, which was sitting charged on the table. I stepped between him and it lay. I said, "I'm almost done." His hand flew out. Not a slap, a shove that sent me crashing into the cabinet behind me. Savannah laughed from the doorway, holding her phone up like she was recording. "Daddy, maybe she should use a notebook like in the old days. Trash shouldn't be allowed tech." "I should have tossed her when she was born," Dad M muttered. Never cried, just stared like a little leech sucking life through the silence. I stood up, grabbed my laptop, and turned away. 3 more days, I whispered to myself. Just 3 more days. The next evening, I came home from my shift, stomach growling, spine aching, wrists sore from pouring lattes, only to find the entire house dark except for the living room. A weird silence crawled down my back as I entered. Savannah sat on the couch. My dad stood behind her and my laptop and was on the floor. "Huh?" Shattered. The screen cracked through the middle, the lid dented, the hard drive visibly loose. I dropped to my knees. "I told you," Dad said. "This house doesn't serve leeches, and leeches don't get futures." I turned to look up at him, mouth dry. "Why?" He grinned like it was a joke. "Because you got cocky. Thought you could fly above this family. Guess what? We keep our own on the ground." Savannah leaned over and laughed. "Oops. Looks like Miss Perfect doesn't have anything to submit now. Should have saved it to the cloud, genius." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there and listened to the sound of my own breath rattling through my chest. There were 2 options. One was to break. The other was to build something stronger from the ashes. But not yet. I stood slowly. My knees buckled. My arms trembled. But I picked up what was left of my laptop. I didn't say a word. Not a curse. Not a sob. Nothing. My silence made Savannah uncomfortable. She wanted a reaction. "Oh, come on. Don't go mute on us now." She said, "Don't be a drama queen. You're not even bleeding." That's when I looked up and smiled. It was the first time I smiled in weeks. Because I knew something she didn't, because my project didn't live in the laptop anymore. It lived in my head, in every sketch memorized, in every calculation tattooed on my brain through sleepless nights. I could rebuild it. But I wouldn't just rebuild my project. I would rebuild everything, and they would regret ever touching me. The next morning, I left without speaking. Not because I was scared, because I needed silence to plan. They thought I'd vanish, that I'd run to a professor, cry for an extension, or go spiral like Savannah used to when she didn't get picked at cheerleading tryouts. But I walked straight to the university's lab building. My fingers were still bruised from trying to gather what was left of my thesis, but I had more than they knew. I had backup fragments saved in the school's simulation drive. Not the full draft, but the structure, the spinal prototype blueprints, enough to resurrect something powerful. Dr. Ellis, my advisor, looked up as I walked into her office. She squinted, saw the swelling above my temple where the laptop struck, and her face dropped. "Oh my God, Casey, what happened?" I shook my head. "I just need access to the lab this week. I'm rewriting my thesis." She stared at me for a long second before answering. "You have 72 hours left. That's more than enough." I lied. The next 2 days, I didn't sleep. I lived in that lab. I rebuilt everything I could from memory: the structural physics, the medical applications, the visual simulations. I didn't just rewrite it. I upgraded it. By the third day, my hands were numb from coding and modeling. My hair hadn't been brushed. My shirt smelled like burnt coffee and fear. But I submitted it, and then I collapsed under the desk and slept for 6 hours. When I woke up, I had 24 missed calls, all from Savannah, 2 from Dad. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked out of the lab and straight to a cheap downtown motel. My back hurt. My eyes throbbed. But I'd done it. Then came the presentation day. I walked into the hall where each student defended their work before a panel of professors, doctors, and invited industry experts. Most students wore crisp suits and heels. I wore a black sweater with holes in the sleeves. My shoes were scuffed. My voice cracked when I introduced myself. But when I clicked the first slide, everything changed. I spoke like someone who'd lived it, not studied it. I explained how prosthetic spinal columns were inaccessible in low-income and rural areas. I walked through the polymer materials, the adjustable hinges, the cost efficiency. I showed animations, projections, and then ended it with the most important slide. A drawing I made at 2 a.m. in the motel, scrolled in the corner of a napkin, and later digitized. It showed a little girl, stick figure thin, standing upright in a hospital corridor, wearing a paper gown and a mechanical brace down her back. The room went silent. And then the applause started. I didn't just pass. I won the dean's thesis honor. My name was added to a research fellowship board, but I still hadn't gone home until 3 days later. When I walked into the house, Savannah was standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed, eyes bloodshot, phone shaking in her hand. "You made me look like a joke," she screamed. I blinked. "What?" She shoved her phone into my face. "Do you know what it's like to have your friends tagging you under a university social media post? Your sister's a genius. OMG, we stand Casey." "What the hell do you think that makes me look like?" "Unemployed," I said quietly. She lunged at me, but I stepped back. "Touch me," I whispered, "and I'll get you arrested." That stopped her, not because she believed I would, but because I'd never said anything like that before. Then Dad stormed in. "Where the hell have you been?" I turned slowly to face him. "Winning." He scoffed, his face red. "This house doesn't care about your trophies. You still live here, still breathing our air, still eating our food." That was when I handed him a single envelope. He opened it. A check. $10,000. "What's this?" he barked. "Rent," I said. "For the last 2 years, every month adjusted for utilities, taxes included. I calculated your grocery spend, too." He looked at me like I'd spoken in Latin. "And now," I said, "you'll never say I owe you anything again." I grabbed my old coat from the hanger. My mother peeked out from the hallway. She'd said nothing the whole time as usual, watching like she wasn't part of the cruelty. "I got a job offer," I said. "6 figures medical design, full benefits." "Where?" Savannah spat. I smiled. "Across the country. Wait." But I didn't wait. I walked out, got into the cab, and as we pulled away, I saw Savannah slam the front door and Dad kick over a chair like a toddler who just lost a toy. But it wasn't over yet, because 3 weeks later, I sent them something. A package, small brown, labeled in thick black marker from your Leech. Inside was my first published medical journal, my prototype, now under research funding. Taped to the front was a sticky note. "You smashed my future, so I built another." They didn't respond to the package. Of course they didn't. People like them, the ones who feed off your silence and then choke when you speak. They never know what to do when you rise. They just wait for your failure, for your next apology, for your next please. But none of that came. 6 months passed. Then one morning, as I was sipping black coffee at my new apartment, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of real life, not the boxed-in ceiling of that house, I got a call. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, a voicemail pinged. It was Savannah. Her voice was shrill, breathless like she'd been running. "Casey, Dad lost his job. Mom's sick. Like actually sick, not faking for drama. I know we weren't great to you, okay? But you need to come back. We need you. Just please call me back." I played it again and then deleted it. The next week, I got an email from my old high school. One of the teachers who'd once written me off as too distracted wanted me to speak at the school's Women in STEM Day. I almost declined, but something told me this was part of it, the final twist. I arrived in a modest black dress holding nothing but a flash drive and a calm smile. They called me Dr. Casey now, not the weird one, not the girl who talks too much in physics class, not the one whose family never shows up. The moment I stepped onto the gymnasium stage, my eyes flicked to the second row. And there they were. Mom, Savannah, even Dad. I hadn't told them I was coming. Someone must have shared the flyer. Or maybe Savannah still had alerts set up with my name the same way you track a ghost you hope never turns real. Mom looked older. Her hair was grayer, not dyed to match Savannah's anymore. Dad had gained weight, but somehow looked smaller. And Savannah, she looked hollow, not broken, just empty, like she'd run out of people to be better then. I didn't flinch. I opened my speech. "Good morning. My name is Dr. Casey Monroe. When I was 17, I was told I wasn't built for brilliance. I was told that being creative made me unfocused, that asking questions made me difficult, that standing out made me less." I paused. My eyes scanned past them. I spoke to the girls in the room. What I wasn't told was that those things were power, that the people who try to make you feel small are usually terrified of what you'll become when you finally realize how big you are. Applause. Savannah shifted in her seat. Dad scratched his neck. I continued. "When I was preparing my final thesis, someone destroyed it. Physically. Smashed it. Tried to convince me that I'd never make it out, that my future was disposable. I rebuilt it in 72 hours. Not because I'm special, but because I was done letting people write my ending. I didn't need to say names. They knew. I wrapped the speech, shook hands, took photos with little girls who held science kits and sketch pads. When I left the building, they were standing by the parking lot, all 3 of them. Savannah looked like she wanted to cry. Mom opened her mouth first. "Casey, honey, can we talk?" I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see a mother. I saw a woman who let her daughter be treated like waste because it made her favorite child feel bigger. "No," I said simply. Dad stepped forward. "We were wrong, but families fix things." I stared at him, then reached into my coat pocket. I handed him a small flash drive. "What's this?" he asked, frowning. "My new patent. It's going into production next year." I want you to see what it looks like when Ali creates a future worth more than yours ever was." His hands trembled as I turned away. Savannah called out, "I'm sorry." "Okay." I was jealous. I still am. You became what I never could. I didn't stop walking. I just whispered back without turning around. "You had my parents. You had the house. You had the lies. And I still won." That night, I lit a single candle in my apartment. No party, no revenge blog, no news article, just peace. Revenge wasn't about watching them suffer. It was about knowing they'd spend the rest of their lives remembering the day I stopped begging and started building. The day the leech stopped feeding and became the cure. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this.